Hey everybody, Jack Monson from Social Geek here, and I'm chatting once again with my good friend Michael Minitelli from Benetrends. Mike, what's going on?
Not much, Jack. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. Good to see you. We've been chatting on some podcasts and at some IFA events recently, and I've had a lot of people ask me about this ROBS program. Tell me
Yep.
more about this 401k rollover funding that you guys are doing.
Yeah, very good question. Very common question. I think in our world, a lot of people are under the assumption they're aware of what a ROBS plan is. Benetrends has been doing this for 40 years, and believe it or not, even in our industry, there's a lot of newer emerging brands that are unfamiliar, candidates coming through our doors that have no idea this exists. And then you ask this the general public, majority of people don't know this exists. So my favorite way for a new business to get funded for a lot of different reasons, and I can say that because Benetrends does some of the traditional stuff as well. But the best answer that I know how to really explain it best and how I understood it was how it was explained to me by Len Fisher, who is the founder of Benetrends and the original architect behind the ROB strategy. And he sat me down in his office a decade ago, and he was like, Mike, I didn't really invent, a rollover plan. People have been doing rollover plans for a very, very long time. I was just the first person to realize, hey, you don't need to be Microsoft, you don't need to be Ford, you don't need to be Apple or a big corporation to do this. You just need the right corporate structure and a qualified plan. So it is something that's been around for 4 decades. Benetrends has done for 50,000 plus times in our history, created an entire industry around it. And this funding strategy, Jack, allows individuals to access retirement funds without tax or penalty to purchase their business, start their business, purchase their franchise, or even in some cases, recapitalize an existing business. So how I like to explain it and how a lot of people really kind of make sense to them, a lot of the people that we work with in our world, Jack, as you know, are corporate kind of transplants, right? People that have been in the corporate setting or career for 15, 20, sometimes 30 years, and they're looking for one of three things typically: residual income, long-term exit strategy, or in some cases, immediate exit strategy. And a lot of these people have utilized retirement funds in the past during their corporate career. So let's say I've been with Apple for 2 decades on the sales side of things, and I have a nice 401k with Apple. I get an opportunity to go work down the street at Microsoft. Typically, what individuals do in scenarios like that, if I have $300,000 in my Apple 401k and I'm going over to Microsoft, typically what I'll do is take that 300k, roll it into Apple's new 401k. And because I'm going from one qualified plan to the next, you don't pay any taxes or penalties. So if I'm at Microsoft, I have 300, I'm going to Apple, I move 300. Because you're going from one qualified plan to the next, Jack, you don't have to pay taxes and penalties. Something you've probably done, I've done, and a lot of the people in our world have done.
Many times, yeah, right.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, once people understand that, it starts to make a little bit more sense. So when I'm at my new position with Apple, right, and I am, or Microsoft, I should say, and I am going through my onboarding, I'm selecting my benefits, I'm going through my Fidelity or Schwab account. When I'm selecting those investments, Jack, one of those investment options is typically purchasing company stock. Again, something I've done, a lot of people have done in the past. What I didn't realize when I was doing that, there's ultimately a chain of events that takes place when you do that, right? So if I rolled over that $300,000 and I decided I want to take 150,000 of that and I want to purchase Microsoft stock, I have the ability to do that. And then what happens is a chain of events takes place, right? My 401k will now own those shares of Microsoft stock. And that $150,000 that I use for my 401k to purchase it doesn't remain in my 401k. It doesn't float out in financial purgatory somewhere. It goes into Microsoft's many corporate checking accounts that they could now use for any legitimate business expense, whether that's salaries, technology, R&D, real estate, anything. So what Len Fisher figured out and what we do at Benetrends is really that same exact structure, but instead of doing it for Apple, Microsoft, Ford, we're doing it for Mike Minitelli, Jack Monson. So essentially, we do that exact same process, Jack, but instead we're going to set up, let's call it Monson Enterprises Corporation, right? Within Monson Enterprises, Benetrends is going to create a qualified retirement plan. And then what we do is we can take 2, 3, whatever you have available in old 401ks, IRAs, or qualified plans. We could take that, let's say $300,000 from a previous employer's 401k, roll that into Monson Enterprises' new qualified retirement plan. And just like that transaction before from Microsoft to Apple, there's no taxes or penalties paid on that rollover. So if you have 300, you move 300. And then once that rollover takes place, Jack, it's the same exact process. The retirement account that Benetrends created is now just going to purchase privately held stock in Monson Enterprises. And once that stock purchase is made, the retirement owns those private shares of Monson Enterprises, and that $300,000 now goes to your corporate checking account that you can use for any legitimate business expense. And in our world, most people are using that for the franchise fees, build out of a location, marketing, vehicles, a salary for themselves. That's a huge advantage for a lot of people that are making that transition from a corporate world. They can set themselves a salary through a ROBS transaction. And it also can be used for an equity injection in an SBA loan so they can secure some additional funds down the road.
I love that idea of instead of investing in some company via stock, I'm actually going to invest in myself and my company and then
Yeah.
take that to invest in a franchise or start a small business or whatever I choose to do, especially in these somewhat uncertain economic
Yeah.
times. It feels like
Yeah.
that's a lot better shot than just investing blindly in something else.
Believe it or not, Jack, there's a lot of individuals that will come to us without a business in mind, and they just look at this as a change of investment strategy. Unfortunately, like you said, in today's economic climate, or just people's, in people's heads, there's some distrust out there for the market and Wall Street. So somebody could say to themselves, "Listen, unfortunately, I don't, I would rather have control over those funds that historically are pretty much out of our control, right? They're at the mercy of big bank, Wall Street, and investments." So sometimes people come to me and say, "Mike, honestly, I'm just looking to invest in myself, my business. And if that fails, then that is on me. I can't blame anybody else, but I much rather bet on myself than, somebody in a big building on Wall Street or, somewhere in Silicon Valley that you really have no control over." So it's a big driver here at Benetrends is that entrepreneurship, giving these individuals ownership and, again, their control of their own destiny. Len has always preached that. Rocco Fiorentino, our CEO, always preaches that. And it's something that I think we're very thankful for here because, again, we're giving people the opportunity to go into business. And a lot of times people didn't think they can do this cost effectively, and knowing that they can tap into those retirement funds without that tax or penalty burden sometimes really changes people's mindsets when going into this process.
Yeah, it's a scary process for some people, but
Yeah.
knowing that you don't have to be penalized for it, I think helps. And I got to tell you, Michael, I've been in franchising for 15 years and no one has explained this program to me better than the way you just explained it. So thank you very much for the
Yeah.
information. If
I
any of
appreciate
our
it.
listeners would like to learn more about the ROBS program or other things that you have going on at Benetrends right now, where can they reach you?
I mean, they can go to our website at www.benetrends.com. We have a great head of marketing, Ali Krause, has really changed the way our company is out there on the web and social media. You can go on LinkedIn and find Benetrends. Myself, Mike Minitelli. You can email me at mminitelli@benetrends.com. But we're pretty easy to find, Jack. But again, if anybody would want to go out there and reach out to me directly, please feel free to.
Excellent. Thanks, Michael. We will see you at an IFA event very soon.
Sounds good, Jack. Thanks for having me as always, man.